Hey guys, sorry I was paused for so long. So I didn't want to talk about this at all. By the way, can you guys hear me? I'm about to go. Okay, I think this is live now. I really did not want to talk about this, but literally all of the comments on any video that people are commenting on, all my social media, people want me to talk about this, are asking about it. And I was gonna say that this is gonna be a really dark video, but I feel like half of my videos are about suicide or depression, so this is very in line with that. I think that one of the reasons I didn't want to speak about this is because a lot of this happened when I was in elementary school, and so I feel like I've been Catholic for a few months, and so I don't really understand the history of it. When I was in like 2002, 2003 is when the first like sexual abuse crisis came out, and I was so young then. I never even remember hearing about it because I was so young. But I think one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this is because I was really upset how long it took the Vatican, Pope Francis, to talk about this, and just how a lot of the leadership is not talking about it enough, not talking about it intensely. So I thought as a Catholic, I should address this. So I think that the first thoughts I have about it are just that a lot of people in my life close to me have been through sexual abuse. And one of my friends, I've seen the scars on her legs and her arms, how she's cut herself because she was sexually abused as a child. She blames herself. She was suicidal so much. Like, I'm shocked she's alive. One of my other friends, I've been around her when she's had a panic attack and she has anxiety and takes medicine for it. And she would not have depression or anxiety if she wasn't sexually abused as a child. And so I feel like people the closest to me have dealt with this. And it's something that will scar you for the rest of your life. You never really get over it or get better. I remember in 2016, there was this rape case in California at Stanford University. And the girl, part of the case, released this really long letter, like thousands of words, explaining her experience dealing with being raped, the whole aftermath. And I read it, and it was the most horrifying, scarring thing. But it really made me aware of what people go through who are victims of sexual abuse. So I'd like to volunteer to be a moderator on your channel. Can I put add moderator? Okay, I added you as a moderator. Anyway, so that's the first thing I wanted to say because I feel like a lot of people start talking about how this impacts the reputation of the church and what the church has in place to prevent this from happening. And I almost see those as secondary issues because there are so many victims, so many people who for the rest of their life have to deal with the result of this. And something else I wanted to say as a convert is that in my diocese in LA and in almost every diocese, there's a sexual assault prevention class called Virtus, or different things in different dioceses. And anyone who volunteers, who reads scripture, who leads worship, who's a Eucharistic minister, who teaches a children's class, everyone has to go through this 3-hour sexual assault prevention class. And I made a video about it. I cried so hard. I had to walk out because it was so explicit, so detail oriented in how to see the signs that someone is priming a child to sexually abuse them. So it's really promising to me that thousands of people in every parish know the signs that someone's going to sexually abuse someone. Bishop Barron was on the Rubin Report recently, and he was saying that right now, the Catholic Church is the safest place for children because of everything that has been put into place since all of this happened. Pray the Rosary. Hi, Lizzie from Peru. Hi. Yeah, and every single Catholic I've talked to about this has been praying so much, has just been so sick, like physically sick, thinking about everything that happened and praying so much for the victims. Yes, and that training came to be after everything that happened in Boston. Absolutely. So there were a lot of changes made in the church after that to prevent it from happening, but I think everyone is still horrified and just shocked by what happened. So I kind of made a list of things I wanted to talk about in this video. So, something really interesting that I learned in a psychology class I took is something called the Milgram experiment. Sorry, guys. It has to do with obeying authority figures. Have you guys heard of this? So, what they did is they brought people into a study and they had to ask a person on the other side of the wall who they couldn't see just basic questions, like memory questions. And if they got it wrong, they had to shock them. And at first, it was a very small amount of shock. But eventually, like, the people on the other side, who were actors, by the way, but the person on this side thought they were real. So the actor would get shocked and they would react like, ow! And so they kept going up and up and up on the voltage. And eventually it got to a point where the people were shocked to death. Like, they were passed out, falling over, because it was such a high shock. And so the people in the experiment would go back to the moderator of the experiment and they'd be like, oh my gosh, the person I'm shocking is yelling, they're in pain, is it okay to keep shocking them? And the person in authority said yes. And so something like 85% of the people in this experiment, if it had been a real shock, it was actors, but if it had been real, something like 85% of the people would have killed the person on the other side because they were obeying this authority figure. And the reason this professor at Yale did this experiment is because of the Nazi trials after the Holocaust. They were shocked that all of these people were obeying orders and murdering so many people. And so it was kind of an exploration into the psyche of humans and why we are the way we are regarding authority. So I think that all of us, to be virtuous people, need to fight so hard against these defaults within us to blindly obey authority. There's just something about humans where we do that. And so I think the problem is that in the church, we have an extreme authority system set up where you're supposed to obey authority, respect authority. It's this giant structure. I hate authority, but in Catholicism, I love that we have this authority structure. I respect and trust our church authority, and I want to obey them. And so I think the problem is that people do not have a nuanced view of obedience and authority. People are thinking of it very black and white. So that's why people who saw the abuse going on didn't report it to the media, didn't talk about it more, accepted the authority, accepted the bishop or the priest, whoever, all the people who didn't speak up and who let it stay hidden for so long, they were trusting the authority. And I think that it's something, like, I was talking to my boyfriend about this, how they should have a course in seminary or something, where it's this like philosophical class where they talk about different scenarios and when is it okay to disobey your bishop? When is it okay to go against who you're supposed to have this extreme obedience to? And so I think it's something that not only with this sexual abuse scandal, it could come up in so many different situations when we need to have a nuanced view of authority. How it's not like black and white, always respect, always obey authority. There are times when you should go against your bishop. And I recently saw priests getting confirmed in Nashville, and it was just insane the vows they were making to obey their bishop in so many situations. And so I think it totally makes sense that because of the like authority hierarchical, oh my gosh, I suck at pronouncing things. Because of the authority structure in Catholicism, it makes sense to me that people blindly obeyed their superiors and didn't speak up about it. And so I think we really, really, really need to address the philosophical problem of when you should go against your bishop. I think they should start talking about that in seminary. That's a good idea. I was talking to my Protestant friend about this, and for the lack of a better word, I said, where was the whistleblower? Yeah. So many people stayed quiet because they trusted the church authority. And to kind of try to understand their perspective, I think of the church like family. You really feel like if there's something going on in your family, you're not going to gossip about it and dish it out to everyone else in your life because it's your family. But then there would come a time where you would betray your family. Like if I found out my sister or mom or dad murdered someone or raped someone and they weren't going to the police or the police were coming to me to find them, I would automatically turn in my family or my best friend, anyone, if they did a horrible crime. And so I think with Catholicism, it is our family, but there are times when you have to sort of betray your family or go against them. And so I think not having a nuanced view of like these exceptions to things is a lot of what caused this. I wonder what mass will be like in PA this weekend. Yeah, people were messaging me who live in Pennsylvania or who knew some of the people who they just found out were also part of this. And I don't even know. I would be terrified and scarred if I knew someone who was a part of this, either of abusing people or covering it up. We've been discussing this a lot within our youth ministry. Some are still skeptical, some are ready for big changes. Personally, I think change will happen at the parishioner level. We also do virtus. Yeah, I think virtus is absolutely essential because, of course, I think this will still happen. There are so many evil people, and I think there will always be evil people. There will always be abusive people in the church. But if we are like with the virtus class, they teach you how to catch a sexual predator before they even abuse a child. So if all these people in the parish know the signs, we'll hopefully be able to diagnose this and find this and fire the priest permanently from the church, from working in the church as soon as possible before they even hurt someone. So like Bishop Barron said in the Rubin Report talk, how the Catholic Church is the safest place for children. When I was at the Virtus class, that's what I thought too. I thought, wow, every single organization, every single school, every single church, every single religious institution should have a Virtus class so that as many adults in society as possible know the signs of abuse and the signs of grooming for their children. Like Cardinal Burke said, the things needed to put a stop to these abuses are in place. It's a matter of putting them into practice. It will be up to the laity to put a stop to this. Yeah, and so I think it's really empowering that all of us can research and understand the signs of this happening to our children or to other children. So it's absolutely up to us. Thank you to people who are moderating and deleting comments that are, I don't know what kind of comments they are. I think people are absolutely fed up. I'm not from the US, but the sense I'm getting is that people are sick of being lied to. The bishops might have bitten off more than they can chew this time. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone is so angry. But what I've heard from Catholics is people are more angry and upset for the victims than anyone else, because these people are scarred and broken in a sense for the rest of their lives. Like I said, so many people in my life have been affected by sexual abuse, and so many of my subscribers. One of the worst stories I ever read from a subscriber, she said she was raped by someone and she felt guilty. She felt like it was her fault, and she didn't even want to take the Eucharist at Mass because she felt guilty and dirty and like she sinned when she was the one who was raped. That's how twisted it is when it happens to children. It makes me so angry. Devils attacks Catholic Church because it's the one who can fight it. Yeah, of course it's Satan attacking us. A lot of people have reached out to me and said they're thinking of leaving the Catholic Church because all of this is coming out. So absolutely, Satan loves this. He wants people to never, ever want to become Catholic. And he wants people to leave the church. And so I think we also need to be praying for everyone in our lives to stay strong amidst this. And to understand that just because there's evil people in leadership, that doesn't mean that Jesus' resurrection is not true. Do you think that you will do a video on the differences between the Protestant churches? Maybe. I think it's really interesting, like all the different branches that came out of the Reformation. So maybe I'll make like a history of Protestantism video, but I mean, there's 30,000, so it would be difficult to make like one video that explains all of it. Priests are the most heavily tempted. Something else that a priest told me is that priests are more like guilty for sins because when it comes to mortal sins, if you like are ignorant that it's a sin, then it's not a mortal sin. So the more knowledge you have about sin, the more liable you are for the sin. And so God will judge these priests and bishops the most harshly of anyone. And I think it's almost comforting in times like this that Jesus talked about hell more than he talked about heaven. Like, of everyone in the Bible, Jesus talks about hell the absolute most. And God is so angry about this. And like all the like sick and angry and sorrow and mourning, all of those emotions that we feel, all of that combined, God is more than that. Like, I don't really want to like put emotions on God, but like to convert to our terms, like God feels angrier and more broken than like all of our emotions combined. And so I think it's really good that we should all keep praying about everyone affected by this. Cardinal Wuerl paid off a priest to keep quiet, according to Church Militant. Yeah, so many people kept quiet. You know, I'm really sad that this is happening. I'm so damn crying. I'm confused. It's like my life is a lie. Yeah, I think for me, I don't even feel it as bad as a lot of people who grew up Catholic, especially if you knew a priest or a bishop who was involved in this and you really respected them and prayed for them. I can't imagine how that would feel growing up in this and then finding out that your family essentially is so evil. My bishop is going to try everything he could do to get this resolved. It seems that everything started coming out after my bishop confessed and got the priest kicked out and have help. Your opinion on priests being able to marry. Okay, that's something I wanted to talk about. So a lot of people who are not Catholic, their reaction has been, the reason priests are abusing children is because they can't get married and have sex. I think that is disgusting, that you're implying that people who are celibate are more likely to rape children. That's insane. Just because you don't have sex does not mean you're more likely to abuse a child. That's awful. I think that's an awful insight. I think that's a part of rape culture to imply that if guys are not given sex, then they're going to violate another person, violate another child. I think that has nothing to do with it. Why is it like this? Because people are evil. Honestly, it's not that surprising to me that this much evil can happen in the church. That was a huge reason why I didn't want to convert. Just throughout all of Catholic history, how evil a lot of the popes and church leadership has been. It's horrible. And all throughout the Old Testament, you know, the kings, the people of Israel, everyone was awful. People were like killing prophets. David was killing people to take someone's wife. You know what I mean? Like, all the church leadership was being so evil and horrible and totally misrepresenting God. And so I think if you read through the Bible, it's so obvious that God is so angry at the religious teaching authority all the time. Like in Matthew 23, I was talking about this on my Facebook. Jesus goes on this huge rant telling the people that all the religious authority who sits on Moses' seat, you should obey them because they're teaching the law, but everything they do not do. Like, Jesus is so angry. Like, the times that Jesus gets the most angry when he was on earth is towards the religious authority, the teaching authority. So, I mean, it's not surprising to me that stuff like this keeps happening. So Protestants don't sin. I mean, yeah, a lot of people say, oh, there's just as much sexual abuse in Protestantism. And, you know, of course that's true. There's sexual abuse in so many places. But saying, I think it's kind of like invalidating the crime and the amount of people abused by this by saying, oh, Protestantism is just as bad. Like, let's address what's happening in our church. Sexual abuse is just as bad in Protestant churches, in other religions, and in fact worse in other institutions. Yeah. I mean, I've read a lot of studies about this, and one of the reasons that it's so well documented in Catholicism is because we have a headquarters and we have all these records kept. So, of course, it happens in all types of churches, all types of religious institutions, but because Catholicism records everything and has like this huge like worldwide structure, that's why we have it all documented. I didn't become Catholic for the priests, bishops, or the Pope. I joined because of Jesus, the Eucharist, and unconditional love. Of course. Yeah. That's why I was tweeting that the reason I'm Catholic is because of the resurrection of the dead and the teachings the apostles taught, not at all by the people who are Catholic. I mean, Jesus did say that people will know we are Christians by our love, and so I think it's a huge problem when there's people who are leaders in Christianity who are being evil. like Jesus made it so that we are supposed to be his body, like the body of Christ, his hands and feet to the world. We're supposed to be this light that attracts people to Christianity. And so, of course, it's awful when we're doing the opposite. I think the problem is with actually covering up the abuses. Obviously this happens in other churches and other human institutions. Yeah, of course. And a parallel, not to take away, like not to take like the light, not to take the, I don't know what word to use, not to like stop talking about the Catholic Church and how evil it is, but another parallel, I really researched really in depth into the like women's gymnastics committee, that guy who raped all the children. It was interesting reading about why it kept happening, because he abused over the course of 30 years dozens and dozens of girls, and the first time it happened it was reported, but the people in charge protected this doctor. And so it's the same thing where one abuser will hurt like dozens of children, but the people in charge are protecting them over the children, over the victims. It's insane. But the thing in the Olympic Committee is similar to what I was talking about, where there's like this huge authority structure and obedience culture. The reason it happened for so long in the Olympics was because it's the same thing. They're taught to not question authority, to this extreme obedience to the people in charge. And I think whenever there's a culture like that, we need to be careful, again, to not have this nuanced view of authority and to not speak up in these really horrible situations. The way nowadays it's hard to become a priest due to all the screenings. In the past, it was a lot easier to become a priest. Good! There should be a lot of screenings. I think the priest shortage is not about screenings, though. I think it's because a lot of Catholics use birth control and are just not having children, so there's less people who are going to become priests. Pray so that I may become a priest. I hope you become a priest. As a Catholic, I think we should never stop praying for our priests and bishops, which a majority is faithful to their vocation in preaching the gospel. Yes, a majority of these people are not abusers and are leading their lives to be such great lights for Christ and are leading us closer to knowing God and are amazing. And so it really angers me that because like this minority of priests are so evil and so abusive and doing the worst crime, it's making us lose trust in all of the other priests and bishops who are doing God's work. I think that's horrible. I'm sure a lot of people know about the abuse, especially the parents. And as much as parents should protect their children, a lot of parents turn a blind eye. Yeah, absolutely. And I think not just with sexual abuse, but like a lot of people message me, a lot of kids like in middle school who have depression or are suicidal or have been through sexual abuse or are gay, and they'll tell these things to their parents and their parents will invalidate their experience. And so I think that being a parent is really hard. And a lot of times parents do not take seriously when children do have really like hard problems. Like if I become a parent, I'm going to do so much research on how to be a good parent, because it's scary when kids can be going through these horrible things and the parents are not even aware of what's going on. Sometimes I hate that I am a girl because of this. Yeah. I mean, because we are physically weaker. Like, I think about that too. Like, the most people I know who have been through sexual abuse are women. I also know men who have been through sexual abuse as children, but yeah. Also, I don't think priests are sexual predators. I think the predators go into the Catholic Church as leaders so they can be closer to children. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure some people had that much intentionality in their sin. It's insane to think about. 85% of the abused were male. Yeah, absolutely. I'm in no way saying that males are not victims of sexual abuse, especially as children. It's not at all that women are more likely to be abused. Absolutely not. Scientists have proven that only 0.1 priests do sexual abuse, and they said that 60% of predators have families and a wife. That shows that my dad has more of a chance of being a predator. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying, where it's so insane and messed up when people say not being married makes you more likely to be a predator. Our Lady of Fatima foretold about the corruption in our time, the corruption in the church which has reached its way to the top. It's important to say that teachers, relatives, and Protestant pastors have by far a bigger percentage of pedophiles and adultery. Yeah, it happens in every single sector of society. As a Catholic with same-sex attraction, it makes me sad to hear the homophobic, oh my gosh, yeah, I want to talk about this, the homophobic comments from some Catholics blaming it all on them. The problem is with people not being, the problem is with people, okay, I don't know what the rest of that says, but yeah, I was absolutely appalled that a lot of people are saying that the reason this happens is because there are gay priests, implying that if you have a certain sexual inclination, you're more likely to be a sexual predator, which is insane. That makes me so angry that people are taking this tragedy and then being homophobic about it. Obviously, if you are gay versus straight, you're not more likely to abuse children. That's so horrible. People are leaving the church in droves due to the hypocrisy and how the church authorities hid the abusers and shut up the children. Yeah, absolutely. I totally understand why people would want to leave, especially people who personally have been through sexual abuse or know someone who has. I mean, it's terrifying. It's horrible how much it messes up your life and your psyche. And so I think people don't want to be part of this because they don't feel safe. But again, like I said, all of this is stuff that's happened in the past. And so currently, I really do agree with Bishop Barron where he said the Catholic Church is the safest place for children because we've done all these virtues classes, all this training on how to prevent sexual assault from happening. Subtitles in Portuguese, please. I have tried to translate a lot of my videos into Spanish. I'm going to start doing Portuguese, but I don't know how to translate live streams. We should all pray for God's will to be done. Yeah, absolutely. We should be praying the absolute most about all of this. Why is God allowing this to happen? The problem of evil is at the core of a lot of theology discussions. What really helped me to understand why God lets so much evil happen was reading this book called The Church History by Eusebius. It talked about the first 4 centuries of Christianity, and they were being murdered and tortured in these horrific ways by the Roman government. It was disgusting and terrifying, you know, their bodies being chopped into pieces, like eaten alive by animals, burned, you know, horrible. And the Christians saw it as their deaths for Christ being a sacrifice to God. Like they were excited to die for God. It was so bizarre, but this completely different way of thinking of the problem of evil. And so my view is, yeah, when Jesus came to earth, he was establishing the kingdom of heaven. He said the kingdom of heaven is near. It's starting. It's right now. So we're kind of experiencing the first fruits of heaven. And I'm so excited for when everyone does get to heaven. I pray for heaven to come sooner all the time, because a lot of these people who are survivors of sexual abuse, they will never be completely healed and completely at peace until heaven. And so I'm so looking forward to heaven where all of this pain will not be constantly demons in these people's minds. You are partly right, Liz, but it is 85% male-to-male abuses. I think just because someone abuses a male child does not mean they are gay. It means they have more access to boys, because in Catholicism, there's more altar boys than altar girls. And so I think it's not necessarily sexual preference with gender, but it's the type of kids they have access to. In your opinion, is abortion for rape cases okay? I think it's absolutely horrible when someone has been sexually abused, and I think the church's teaching on pro-life is really hard. I think a lot of the church's teachings are really, really hard. And in those 0.001 cases where someone is impregnated when they are raped, I think it is so, like, psychologically traumatizing to go through the pregnancy. And I think that if a woman has to go through that, she can give the child up for adoption if she doesn't feel like she can emotionally handle raising a child she was impregnated because of being raped. So the totally pro-life stance of the church in that situation, it's really, really hard. But if it is true that life begins at conception and that is a life, it is an innocent life, we do have to protect it. Pedophilia is a sickness that does not discriminate. Yeah, absolutely. I don't get Eucharist yet since I'm an RCIA. Yeah, I did not receive the Eucharist either until I was an RCIA. Why punish the baby for the father's actions? Yeah, a lot of people say that. The ones who covered it up should be held just as responsible as the one who sexually assaulted. I actually think the people who didn't report it and let it keep happening are almost even worse than the abusers, because they had the opportunity to prevent future people from being victims and they didn't. And so dozens more people were scarred and abused because this happened. What if the woman can't handle giving birth to the baby? Like I said, I think it's absolutely evil when people rape, and if someone becomes impregnated, that's scarring, like so absolutely scarring. And I think like, if we know someone who has been through that, we need to give them all the spiritual, emotional, economic support as possible in that situation. Lizzie, this is random, but can you make a video on traditional Catholicism? Yeah, this is completely off topic. But yeah, I actually have some video scripts written where I'm going to talk about it, because I did go to Latin Mass a lot of last year, like all of last summer. I was like going to Latin Mass before regular Mass. So I have like a really special place in my heart for Latin Mass. And a lot of my followers are traditional Catholics. I'm glad the church in the East, from where I'm from, does not have scandals this bad. Yeah, I think it's amazing in places that they don't have to deal with this abuse. But like I said, just because you're not hearing about the abuse doesn't mean it's not happening. I've heard it said that the piety of the laity determines the quality of the priest. What are your thoughts about that? That's very interesting. But I would not want to take that and say that the laity are responsible if the priest becomes sexually abusive to children. But yeah, absolutely. I think it's all about the community, and the laity of the church should absolutely have a relationship with the priest and help them stay spiritually strong. Lizzie, I pray for you every day. Thank you for this video and being a light in the darkness we are all experiencing right now. Father Jacob, thank you so much for being a priest. I am so grateful every time I see a priest for all this, like, the years and years and years of theology and philosophy training in seminary, and just like, giving your whole lives to lead us closer to God and give us the sacraments of Eucharist and baptism and confession. Like, thank you so much. I'm like so amazing grateful for everyone who's a priest and giving their whole lives to help us stay close to God. There has to be an honest conversation about establishing and enforcing strict personal boundaries. Yeah, like I said, the virtues, sorry, like my brush, I try to be modest. Like I said, the virtues sexual assault prevention class, it talks about so details. Like, one of the things is that a Catholic Bible class with kids, there always have to be 2 people there. That's one of the rules that was enforced that will prevent things like this from happening again. Do you think that some priests become priests just to be predators? I heard some. Yeah, absolutely. I think that definitely pedophiles will intentionally become an elementary school teacher, become a priest, because they know they'll have access to kids. I think it's so evil. Thank you for your videos, Lizzie. I'm a seminarian from Mexico. Thank you so much for being a priest. I just went on a mini rant about how much I love priests, but we appreciate you so much. This is really important. The majority of sexual abuses are homosexual abuse. Okay, absolutely not. They have not done a survey of if someone is straight or gay who's being abused. Just because they're abusing children does not mean they're gay. It's because there's more male children who are altar servers. Random thought, but have you heard of the Anglican ordinate within the Catholic Church? Yes. If not, I think you'd find it very interesting. Yeah, I actually think it's really cool that when Anglicans, if someone who's an Anglican, sorry, if someone who's an Anglican priest converts into Catholicism, they can become a Catholic priest, which is so cool. Because a lot of people message me who want to be Catholic who are Protestant pastors, and they don't know what they're going to do anymore because they can't become a priest because they have a family and because they haven't gone through like the seminary like training. So I think it's really cool that an Anglican priest can transition into a Catholic priest. And if they have a family, they can like stay married and still be a priest and all. Didn't you hear the Pope likes Islam? He's a traitor. I mean, Pope John Paul II kissed a Quran. This isn't a new thing. In the USA, there's a high rate of police that do sexually abuse. It rarely gets reported. Yeah, I mean, in every single part of the country, there's sexual abuse. It's so awful, and I'm glad that we're finally having these conversations in the church, in the Olympic Committee, in colleges. We're finally having these conversations in trying to enforce laws that get rid of these people and get these people away from children. This is completely random, but I'm a Catholic and I find myself with a little bit of doubt if God exists. Can you help me with that? I feel like you should read Aquinas. He has a lot of like proofs for God's existence. Hello from Poland. Hello from Sweden. Sorry, I'm reading a lot of the comments. Are you a fan of Mother Angelica? Yes, I love EWTN. I've been to their office in DC. I don't like that people can get away with something so sick just because they know they are stronger than the victim and they want to talk. Also, I want to hug you. Oh, I want to hug you too. Yeah, I was actually talking to my boyfriend and I said I wish sex didn't exist. I wish we could just delete sex from humanity because some of the absolute worst crimes, most evil crimes have to do with sexual abuse, sex slavery, like the things that and things like pornography, like the most evil things in society are when we take sex, something that was so beautiful and created to be this expression of love and to create family and new life and new generations, that's been taken and twisted in such an evil way. Ugh, for the absolute worst sins. It's just insane. This makes me distrust church authority. Yeah, of course. It's horrible how, there's so many people, the majority, who are doing great things for the gospel and who we should be able to trust. But then there's all these people who were covering it up for so long. I mean, people should have been fired immediately. It's just insane how many people were kept in for so long, how they're literally protecting abusers over children and victims. It's insane. You basically just explained humanity there, Lizzie. Yeah. I agree with what you said just about deleting sex. Yeah. Like the beauty of humanity is the same as the beauty of sexuality. A lot of Eastern Catholic rites allow priests to be married. Do you think that this will ever be allowed across the entire Catholic Church? I think that celibacy is a virtue in Catholicism and it always has been. Mary wasn't ever a virgin. A lot of the desert fathers, like early on in the church, there were like spiritual marriages where they wouldn't have sex. And so celibacy is really a value. And so I think that with the priest shortages, I think we should just be trying a lot of options to get more priests. And so I think that maybe not like all priests are married, but I think there should be a lot of exceptions made, especially in countries that are having priest shortages. I know I was reading about some country in South America where Pope Francis said priests can be married because it was becoming such a problem. So, I mean, one of the things that like really frustrates me about the church in America is that there are not that many opportunities to go to confession. And if it's a sacrament, just as much as the Eucharist is a sacrament, we should have it all throughout the week. To meet our Sunday Mass obligation, they'll have Saturday night Mass, 4 Masses on Sunday, and confession is only 1 hour, 1 day of the week. And so I wish there were more priests so that we could have hours of confession at different times throughout the week. And so, yeah, I wish that, I guess, more priests could be married so that we could just have more priests. And like I was saying, where a lot of people who messaged me are Protestant pastors and they don't know what they're going to do for a career if they become Catholic. Like they don't know how they're going to provide for their family. It would be really cool if people in situations like that who wanted to become Catholic, if the father could go to seminary for maybe 2-3 years, get a refresher on Aquinas and Augustine, and then become a priest with his family. I think that we should allow exceptions like that. Just like if an Anglican family converts, they can, like, the married father can be a priest. So I think that would be really great. How many were executed Catholics under King Henry VIII? Yeah, okay, exactly. There's been so many times in church history when there have been evil, evil people in church leadership. Hey, Lizzie, can you make a video where you talk about apologetics? What kind of apologetics? I feel like a lot of my videos are. In several Latin American countries, confessions are right before and during the first half of Mass on each Mass of the week. That's so cool. Also, this Latin Mass I go to in LA, they have confession for like an hour before Mass and during Mass for the same thing, for the first half of Mass. So everyone can go to confession. So I really love that. I wish every church would do that. I don't think there should be married priests. They can become deacons. There are married priests in the church, in Byzantine Catholic churches, Anglican Catholic churches, like the whole Eastern Rite. How liberals ruined the Catholic Church. I think baby boomers ruined the Catholic Church. They didn't pass the faith on to their children, and that's why so many people are leaving the church. I don't think priests should be married because your love and dedication can only be for Christ and the church. I agree. Like, I think it's so beautiful that they're completely devoted to the church. And so what I've always said in why priests shouldn't be married is because they're so busy and they don't have time to devote to their family and to the church. But if more priests were able to be married, then maybe we would have more priests and they wouldn't be as busy. So, like, yeah, I love the idea of them being devoted to the church, but when we're dealing with a priest shortage, what are we supposed to do? And like someone was saying earlier, there are so many, it's really hard to become a priest because they have so many things with not becoming a priest. Like there's so many things in place where you have to meet all these things. And so I think that it should be more, like it should be difficult to become a priest. It should be like a filtering out process. And so I wish we could do that even more. But I mean, like I was saying earlier, though, so many Catholics use birth control. If every couple was having 3 or 4 children, then more people would be becoming priests and nuns and becoming part of religious life. So, baby boomers not using birth control is a huge part of the problem. Baby boomers did promote vocation in the family. Maybe some of them. Without celibacy, we wouldn't have our great Catholic sisters. Yeah, I absolutely love celibacy. Like, I made a video a few weeks ago, Lies Liberals Believe About Catholic Sexual Ethics, and the whole video was about celibacy, and so, oh my gosh, I was supposed to be eating in this video. I forgot to eat all day, but I've been, like, so focused. As a smoothie. A man has to receive celibacy as a gift. If he sees celibacy as the baggage of his vocation, then he'll never live fruitful celibacy. Absolutely. I think celibacy is a completely freeing thing. Like, I've never had sex my entire life. I'm celibate, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything at all because I'm not married, so I don't need to stay, like, so close to someone for the children and to have a stable home for a family. You know what I mean? Like, I think, like, its purpose is in marriage and in raising children. We only have confession from 6 to 7 on Wednesday and 2:30 to 3:30 on Saturday, but we have 4 services. It's good you have it twice a week, though. Like, at my home parish in California, it's on Saturday at 5 p.m., and I always have stuff on Saturday at 5 p.m. Like, I never can make it. It's so annoying. Hey, Lizzie, this is from Joseph. The guy who is being indicted for the sexual abuse charges is the head bishop of my diocese. Wow. I have a hard time going to church now because of this. Any advice? That's insane. Like I said, I feel like I'm not even feeling this as strongly because I just joined the church. So it's not like I feel betrayed by, like, my church family. So I can't imagine people who know personally people who are involved. I don't even know. I would just pray and pray and pray, and just all of your emotions and anger, just share it with God, because God can handle absolutely all of it. Read through the Psalms and find Psalms that are angry. So many of the Psalms, David is just praying for God to, like, destroy and kill his enemies. He's so angry. And so I think that the reason the Psalms are there is to show us how to pray and how to talk to God. And so everything you're feeling, just stay close to God and just pray for yourself and for all the people involved. Know any vegan priests I'd like to meet? I'm sure that there are vegan priests. Maybe I should try to find some. We know pedophilia is inside our church, but it's a crime committed everywhere. Protestant pastors are pedophiles too. Absolutely. Because nobody talks about abuse by Protestants doesn't mean it didn't happen. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories in individual Protestant churches, but I don't know if you were listening earlier, but I was saying because the reason it's such a news item in the Catholic Church is because we have this huge authority structure. We have records of absolutely everything. So once that got released to the media, released to the public, we saw how big of a problem it was. And so I think that it's good that we have records of all of it in Catholicism, because moving forward, we can create measures to not allow it to happen. So I think in individual Protestant churches, like the church I grew up in, each church is autonomous. And so there's no way to have, like, the person who's in charge, like, know about everything happening. Does that make sense? Like, it's good that we have, like, a network of people in charge. Contact your priest and diocese and let them know how you stand with the church. Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone should be writing letters to their bishops and the cardinals, people in your diocese who are not speaking up about this. Like I said, I was so angry how long it took Pope Francis to make a statement. I wish the church leadership was just talking for hours and hours and hours about how angry they are and going out of their way to help victims and just talking about this a lot. I mean, it angers me how they're not talking about it more. I want you to come to Australia. People are flying me out to speak at conferences, so if you want me to come to Australia, talk to your diocese and ask me to be a speaker at your event. Like, I love Australia. I really want to come there someday. I follow a lot of YouTubers who live in Australia. How do you feel about Pope Francis? I feel like I've only been Catholic for 5 months. 5 months? April, May, June, July, like 4 months. I've been Catholic for 4 months, and so I don't have that many opinions about Pope Francis. I really want to respect church authority, but a lot of people have negative thoughts, positive thoughts. I don't really have many negative thoughts. I know a lot of my friends, so many of my friends have become Catholic under Pope Francis, and he's someone who's been very loving in the way he's talked about gays, and he's less into all the like outer things of being Pope, like the regal aspects of the Pope. He's more humble, and so because of that, it really caught my attention. And I think that that's one of the reasons that so many of my friends converted under Pope Francis. Like, I was really shocked, and I had so much respect for how he was Pope, and so that in part helped me to convert. So because of that, I absolutely love him, that some of the people I love the most in my life have become Catholic because of him. Welcome to the Catholic family. I've been praying for you over a year. This person, their name is Don't Worry. Thank you so much for praying for me. That's why I was able to convert so fast, because everyone was praying for me to convert. So I had to convert. I honestly feel so special. Like, in interviews, people like ask me about my journey, and I'm like, my YouTube subscribers converted me. They sent me resources and prayed for me. Like, it's so amazing that like how close our relationship is. People have been following me for so long. You guys were literally like, you converted me because we have that really close relationship. Lizzie should make a video on what you love and hate about. I love like about other Protestant churches or about what. But yeah, the love and hate videos. I felt really disappointed at Mass a couple days ago when they had no mention about this issue. That's horrible. I hate it. It's like they talk so much about the children getting separated from their parents, which we should be talking about. And so if they can be so intense about political issues, they should be even more intense about abuses going on in the church. I know when this was happening like 3 weeks ago, there was like another news thing about all of this. And I remember that Sunday, the Bible verse was like this Old Testament verse of the prophet ranting at the religious leaders. And I remember the homily at the parish I went to that week did talk about the abuses in the church. So I think everyone should be talking about it. It's horrible if your parish isn't talking about it. I would be so angry too. I don't like Catholic priests. Yeah, it's really sad that this minority and all the people covering them up makes people not trust the rest of them, who are these amazing people striving to dedicate their whole lives to Christ and the church. Yeah. Sorry, Alexander says, I'm sad with the abuses by the pastors, but I'm angry because the world catalogs all of them like pedophiles, but it isn't like that. Not all of them are like that. Absolutely not all of them are like that. But I think that the reason that so many people are categorizing this as everyone is because it was covered up so much, because the priests were reinstated. If the priests who were abusing children were immediately kicked out of the priesthood right when it happened, it wouldn't have become such a huge like judgment on the Catholic Church. The cover-ups were almost worse than the people abusing actually, no, I don't think that. I think the people abusing the children were way worse. Thank you so much, the people who are deleting comments for me. The next time I live stream, if you want to be a moderator, comment immediately and I'll make you guys moderators, because that really helps me out with not having to delete spam and stuff. Feminism and Catholicism, what are your thoughts? I made a video about feminism 2 videos ago. Go watch it. I just started going to Mass regularly over the past week. This is Riot Worsley. And my second weekly service was them addressing this. That's amazing. I think all of the priests and bishops have a responsibility to talk to their parishioners about this and kind of be leaders in helping all of us process this. Pope Francis always asks us to pray for him. He knows how hard is the job and how fragile is the nature of men against sin. Yeah, I love how we pray for Pope Francis every single Mass. We should be praying for all of church leadership. I wish we would have a report like this in Australia. I have a feeling the same thing happens here, but no one talks about it. Yeah, absolutely. I think abuse is a worldwide problem. Oh, I just lost. Your vid on infallibility was great. I love the way you described it. Yeah, I really enjoyed making that video. I read a lot of things. I actually learned more depths about it when I was making the video. Not to undermine the issue, but I feel it's important for the world to know that sexual abuse is not just a Catholic issue. Could you make a well-researched video to give people another perspective? I think it kind of invalidates the victims of the Catholic Church by saying, oh, everyone else deals with this. You know what I mean? I made several suicide prevention videos last month, and I talked about sexual abuse in the videos very in depth. So I feel like in my mental health videos and in like the one-on-one messages I do with subscribers, I address sexual abuse so much. Today is the feast day of Saint Helena. Who is Saint Helena? I don't know her. Some people say that Virtus is making a great job with children. Yeah, it's amazing. But do you think they're making a good job with pederasts too? They deserve our love after all. At this point, it's a matter of respect. People are losing respect for the Catholic Church, not because of the evil men, but because of the establishment that supported it by covering it up. Yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest problem. How they covered it up and they protected these evil predators over the children. Sorry guys, I'm charging my computer so it doesn't die. Okay, so someone's asking, there was a new sexual abuse scandal during this week. Just more documents were released about Pennsylvania. So it's things that happened in the past, but more details about how much it was covered up. And like this thousands of page report about details of the kind of abuse. I personally did not read like details of it because I'm a very, very empathetic person. I cry all the time reading news of bombings or abuse or sex slavery, whatever. Like I cry so much. So I personally chose to protect myself by not reading details about this because I knew it would just push me into depression and you know what I mean? Like it would just be so unhealthy to think about in depth. I feel horrible for the people in the court cases who have to think about this all the time and talk about it all the time. Brittany Upton, your videos are the reason why I became Catholic. Love your videos. Thank you. That makes me so happy. I never ever thought if you'd asked me like 3 years ago that I would be helping people become Catholic. I would be shocked. Like, what? I hate Catholicism. I really appreciate what you stand for. Saint Helena of Rome is the mother of Constantine the Great, who discovered the holy relics of the cross. Oh, wow, that's so cool. What is your shake about? It has like mango and strawberry. It's vegan. I don't know what it is, but I've been craving acai bowls and smoothies so much lately. I think I haven't been eating enough fruits. I go through phases of my life. Like for 2016 and a lot of last year, I made smoothies every single morning. And I would like drink like pitchers of smoothies for breakfast. And so I haven't done that this summer as much. So I'm like craving. But when I get back to California in August, September 7th, I'm going to be back in California for the rest of the year. And I'm going to make like acai bowls and like custom smoothies and stuff like every day. I'm excited. Okay. We need to do more as the laity. Yeah, I really love how everyone is saying that as the laity, we need to take ownership of the church in praying about it, in taking virtues classes, being informed on all of this. and just being an example to all the non-Catholics in our life and how angry we are about all of this, how it's the state of mourning, how affected we are thinking of all the victims. Like, we have the most power over the people closest to us in our lives. Do you think it was a conspiracy, like deliberate attempts to cover it up and promote such people to powerful positions because of some agenda? Absolutely not. It is unstable. I was abused for many years by a priest. I was 8 years old. It didn't stop until he passed away. Ugh, I absolutely hate that you would do that. I cannot imagine. I have a bad case of ligma. I don't know what that is. Our bishop sent out a letter addressing the abuse scandal to the parishes and parishioners. I am praying that our local parish will bring it up this Sunday for those who did not have the email. That's amazing that your bishop emailed everyone. That's what I think all church leadership should be doing, like individually to their parishioners, talking about it and just helping everyone process it. What is your favorite? What did you do for the Assumption? I actually have a really good story about that. We can talk about something positive for a few minutes. So I went to the Tuesday night mass, and I'm in Nashville right now, and the bishop was at the mass. It was a pretty small mass. I was sitting in like the third row, and I was like crying the whole time, like tearing up, because I'd never been that close to a bishop before, and I cry every time I think about apostolic succession because that didn't exist in my Protestant church. And so learning that the apostles' ability to be priests and consecrate the Eucharist, that has been passed down. They've like breathed on everyone in succession up to all the bishops today and all the priests. It's insane and amazing. And so being there with the bishop was one of the most special masses I've ever been to in my life. And afterwards, I shook the hand of the bishop and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so like, thank you so much for being here. I cry when I think of apostolic succession. You're amazing. I was so happy to meet a bishop because I love church authority. And I think that's why this is one of the most crushing things, because church authority is one of the most beautiful things that Christ put in place to lead the church and to keep all of us united and strong in spreading the gospel to everyone. And so the fact that church authority is this corrupt is just so tragic. And for everyone who's been Catholic for a long time or been abused by these people, I can't imagine how even more like horrible and crushing this is. Jesus never said that the church would be sinless. This follows a consistent pattern in the church's history. Because look at the apostles themselves. I mean, that's true. The apostles were not perfect, but the apostles were also not sexually abusing people. But you're right that throughout church history, there have been really, really evil people. Sorry guys, I really need to eat food. I'm like really starving. I was gonna eat throughout the whole video, but it was really serious. So I have some vegan Chipotle. Oh my gosh, it's a giant piece of lettuce. You shouldn't base your faith on the mistakes of the Catholic Church's human priest. Absolutely. Like, Jesus is perfect and God is perfect and the dogma is perfect, but not the people. What makes me so mad, it feels like we have been here before. Yeah, and I think this is going to be constantly happening because it was so bad when they were not firing the priests, changing them to different dioceses. Like, it's going to come up again and again and again because it affected thousands of people who were abused by these people. So of course it's going to keep coming up. So many people who were abused for so long by these priests are still sorry. Oh my gosh, there's like a jalapeno in this. Well, what I was saying, so many people who were abused are still alive. So of course it's gonna still keep coming up. Saul was killing Christians. That's true, yeah. That's why as horrendous and evil and shocking as all of this is, it's not surprising to me that people in the church, God's people, are so evil. Throughout the whole Old Testament was always like that, where there were so many people who were corrupt. And when Jesus was on earth, he was constantly angry at church authority. That was like a majority of his ministry. He was just angry at church authority. I'm eating dinner right now too. What are you eating? I am 99% vegan now. Oh, hi, Chris. You've been following me for so long. Eating some vegan Asian noodles right now. Yeah, I'm like 98% vegan probably. I cheat sometimes. Just stating facts is that Pope Francis believes there is no place in the church for LGBT priests, but that doesn't mean we should turn away LGBT people. I totally disagree with Pope Francis on this. I think being a priest, if you are gay, you are not at all more likely to sexually abuse a child. That's insane. And anyone who believes that needs to change and stop believing that. It's so homophobic to think because someone is a different sexual orientation, they're more likely to abuse someone. That's insane. Every 10 years, there's a new scandal. I mean, there's always going to be scandals in the church. There have always been scandals and heresies. I think she's half Hispanic. A lot of people think I'm Hispanic. A lot of people think I'm Asian because of my eyes. I've actually never done a DNA test. So I'm going to do a DNA test video soon. I'm trying to get this one company to sponsor the video. So that's why I haven't done it yet. But even if I don't get sponsored, I'm still gonna buy a DNA test and do a video because I actually don't know what my ethnicity is. But I do not think I'm Hispanic at all. Like maybe like 5% or something, but not like half Hispanic or anything. But I went to high school in South Florida and everyone there was Hispanic. It was like majority Hispanic, a lot of blacks. I was like the minority race at my church, at my school. But yeah, so I speak Spanish. I learned Spanish in high school, but just like everyone always spoke Spanish. So I do know Spanish. Like I was in Mexico in February with one of my best friends and I could like conversation speak Spanish with the people there. You are making me so hungry. I'm so hungry. I need to eat. The church has corrected sexual abuse in the US. Hard to find new cases after 2002. Absolutely, yeah. So because of measures we took, it stopped happening. That's what I've been saying throughout the video, where right now, the Catholic Church is the safest place for children because we put all of these things into place to prevent this from ever happening again. And like I said, through the sexual assault prevention classes, Virtus, all these parishioners are aware of how to catch a sexual predator before he even starts abusing children. So you're right. We're still dealing with things that happened a long time ago, but currently I think people who have children in their parish do not need to be scared for their children at all. What's happening here? We're talking about the sexual abuse things that are coming out from a couple decades ago. Satan has an 100-year dominion in the last century. That's why it was so bad. Yeah, obviously Satan is constantly attacking the church and attacking the people in the church, attacking the leaders of the church constantly. I think that a lot of times we don't realize how much of the physical, tangible world is being affected by these spiritual elements. I think that because we live in a Western country, we've really lost sense of how spiritual everything is. And so I think that when people are feeling like pushed away from God, or when evil is happening, or when people are like losing their faith, that has like this not like demon, but I think like there's constantly spiritual warfare where like everyone has a guardian angel, and then a third of the angels came down from heaven with Satan, and they're demons trying to attack the church, attack everyone's faith. And so I think a lot of times we don't think of things in terms of the spiritual realm and how much it's affecting everything. Something really interesting is this book called The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. It kind of gives the perspective of demons and trying to tear people away from God. And it's fascinating if you think about things in terms of spiritual warfare. Estoy perdido, no sé cómo. The church is innocent. She's the unblemished bride of Christ. The people in the church are not innocent. Chipotle, I love their pork burrito, yum. I've never had the pork burrito because I'm vegan. So, the best thing about being vegan at Chipotle is if you just get beans and no meat, the guac is actually free. You don't have to pay for the guac. It's a miracle that the Catholic Church has lasted this long. Only God could have made this possible. And that's one of the things I really noticed with converting. The early church was so chaotic. In the first, second century, there were all of these different heretic groups and denominations within the heretic groups. And they were really strong, had like Christian leaders who would leave and then become part of these heretic groups. And so I was actually shocked that like the theology of Jesus resurrecting from the dead in bodily form like actually continued to exist. And so yeah, that was a huge reason. I was just thinking, wow, the Holy Spirit worked so strong in keeping the faith in those first few centuries of the church. But yeah, absolutely. Today, the reason we still have the same theology from the apostles from the first century is because the Holy Spirit is working so strong to protect the church. How do you, oh gosh, I just lost. How do you, what is your Instagram? It's my first and last name, Lizzie Rizet. It's in the description of all of my YouTube videos, all my social media. It was decades ago, but people who were pivotal in the cover-ups are still in leadership today. Yeah, it's so messed up. Pope Francis needs to immediately fire everyone. It's so easy. Something else I was thinking. So a lot of these cases that are coming out now, you can't take it to court. Like you can't put these priests in jail for what they did because with how the law works, you have to convict the person within a certain amount of years from when the crime was. So a lot of these priests who sexually abuse children cannot be put in prison. And so I think the Vatican should create a prison in Rome, and we should have our own prison where we put people who are sexual abusers. And of course, you know, we're against the death penalty, so they'll just be in prison in life. And I don't know, they can like be made to do something like grow vegetables or like, I don't know. Our diocese went bankrupt from settlements from abuses of 50 to 60 years ago. I think things are a lot better now. Lizzie, you're Roman, Spanish, French, Italian. I hope I'm Spanish. I would actually be happy if I was. But I don't know. I love Mexico. I want to go back to Mexico so bad. I would move there if I could. The West was essentially made to be in poverty of the spirit from the shade behind the forefathers that had power upon the West making. I don't understand that. How long do you think the Catholic Church has covered up sexual abuse? Probably since the early church. I feel like people have probably been abusing people from the early. My main concern is that gay priests who have remained celibate will be associated with these monsters. Absolutely. It makes me so angry that people think that gay priests who are being amazing and amazing leaders and are pure, people are going to associate them with this abuse. It's horrible. Be careful about the DNA test. The companies sell people's DNA for weird reasons. I mean, you like spit in a tube. What do you mean they're going to sell my DNA? Just going to close the chat. I can't with these hateful comments against people with same-sex attraction. Okay, I'm going to make you a moderator, so if you want to start deleting people, go ahead. Once we know we were in spiritual warfare, we will have better resistance against sin. Exactly. In 2016 summer, I was so close. Like, I wasn't going to church at all. I didn't want to believe in God. I was running away from God. And then I had a moment where I woke up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and I realized that all of this was spiritual warfare, that Satan was trying to tear me away from God. And once I realized that Satan was working so hard through my depression and through all this evil in the world to make me stop believing in God, that's when I started fighting so hard to stay close to God. And that's the thing. So with things like sexual abuse, that's a horrible sin. And not only is that affecting the person who is abused, but it's so evil because everyone else is being torn away from God. In a sense, you know, because people are seeing that and then not wanting to be part of the church anymore. So I think with spiritual warfare, it's like one sin can affect so many people. Love you speaking Spanish. Me gusta hablando español. Oh, thanks for deleting comments, guys. Lizzie, having Spanish would mean you have Hispanic ancestry. Okay, I'm making someone else a moderator. Is your book going to be titled Against Heresies? My book about my conversion? No! Irenaeus already took that title, Against Heresies. Actually, the book was also called, like, Against Valentinus, so I don't think Against Heresies was the original title. But no, that's not going to be my book title. Are there laws in the Vatican since it's its own country? I honestly don't know that much about the Vatican, but they should definitely have a prison there, a Catholic prison. You should visit the Spain or the Philippines during Holy Week. I should. Lizzie, I don't think Christians should identify as LGBT because isn't that labeling yourself as one of your sinful desires? I myself have had homosexual desires, but never will or have acted on them. I don't think it's people wanting to identify with it. I think people are just like, objectively, I'm attracted to this. Or objectively, I have gender dysphoria, I've been diagnosed, and am trans. You know what I mean? It's just people stating objective facts about themselves. It'd be like what's a huge sin area for me? So, like, being judgmental and prideful, it's like just saying that, like, that's who you are. I don't think it's like, you know what I mean? It's just like stating objective facts, like. People are swearing. Here, I'm gonna make you a moderator. Sorry, I feel like I don't see a lot of, because it's like going so fast, so I don't, you guys are probably reading the worst of the comments. I agree with you about demonizing innocent gays, but I don't think it's likely that there were no gay abusers at all. Of course, I think there were gay abusers. Like I said, I think if you're straight or gay, you're not more likely to abuse children. So I think, like, if you're gay, it doesn't mean you're never going to abuse children either. Like, both sides can abuse children. But saying that if you're gay, you're like 90% more likely to abuse children is insane and objectively wrong. I do believe that Pope Francis needs to call for a purge. Having an outside investigation and removing the clergy that either have partaken in these sex abuses or covered them up turned over to the law. Absolutely. I wish he would take like huge executive action and just firing a ton of people. It'd be great. Makes sense, thanks. I personally wouldn't use the label though, because just to me, it gives my sin a foothold. Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone should do what is best for them and what works best for them. When I heard of it, my heart dropped. Yeah, so many Catholics have been mourning and crying about it. Do you think? Someone was saying they think this is like the last times and like the apocalypse. So I read this book by Scott Hahn called The Lamb's Supper, and he talks about like his interpretation of Revelation, and it's just describing the Mass. So a lot of people have these weird interpretations of Revelation and when the world's gonna end, but I think like the Catholic interpretation of Revelation doesn't really put up with those weird predictions. So I don't really put any stock into things like that. Were people from the Old and New Testament Catholic, or were they Jewish then Catholic? I mean, the early church, they went to synagogue and all, and they kept the Jewish law, so they were Jewish and Catholic. Jewish Catholics. Jesus calls us to love one another. We shouldn't take that lightly. Yeah. Love is not a feeling. It's constant action and surrender and humility. Someone commented, Aaron, they were Jewish. Yeah. I also think that sex abuse has been covered up at the Vatican as well. Yeah, I'm sure it's been covered up all over the world. I don't think people understand that the office these men hold is holy. It doesn't mean that they're without sin. It doesn't corrupt the teaching of the church. Yeah, absolutely. That's like in my last video, I was talking about what papal infallibility means. And so a lot of people who I talk to who are Protestant are like, how can you say the Pope is infallible when the popes have done all these horrible things throughout history? And so when I was researching for that video in like the Vatican I Council, it said that the papal infallibility does not refer to the individual popes, but the seat of the Pope. And so the infallibility of any of the church authority, it's to the seat, like the bishop's seat, not the individual bishop. So I think it's really important to make those distinctions. The Lamb's Supper is a great book. It changed my life. It's amazing. It really helped me. We read in my RCIA, so it helped me understand parts of Mass. It was really cool. What do you think about Emma Watson and the things she's doing about gender equality? I really love what she's doing about gender equality. I think she's bringing attention to a lot of issues that are really important. What I really don't like about, like I said, I made my video talking about the men's rights movement and all the issues they have. And so I watched the Red Pill movie and I kind of gave my perspective on it. And so I totally understand that we need to be talking about men's issues, dealing with domestic violence, sexual abuse, depression, suicide. There are so many men's issues we need to talk about. But my issue is that people who are against feminism, so like feminism, a lot of times it talks about like believing victims of sexual assault. You know what I mean? Like really great things it talks about. And so a lot of people who are against feminism will just be like, I hate feminism, it's awful. But then they individually will not speak up about ending sexual abuse, helping victims of sexual abuse, helping victims of domestic violence. So I don't like when people just tear down a movement if they're not gonna help people who are dealing with those situations. Does that make sense? It's kind of like with the Black Lives Matter movement. A lot of people don't like identifying with it. I don't really care, but they're talking about systemic racism, things that are happening in the country that are horrible. And so a lot of people are like, oh, I hate that movement, but then not fighting for these positive things that the movement is fighting for. Does that make sense? So I don't really care how people label themselves, but it annoys me when a movement is doing all this good and trying to work towards more equality in society, and then people will shut down the movement and then do nothing about the injustice issue. You know what I mean? It's really annoying. I'm honestly open-minded and interested in where you get the statistics. Thank you for people who are deleting comments. Here, I'm going to start making more people moderators. Just hanging out. Hi. Hi, I'm going to make you a moderator so you can delete some people who you don't like. I watched an online mass by the Catholic Church in Canada, and during their mass, the priest talked about it. It was such a good homily. That's amazing, and I think it's so amazing how so many priests and bishops all over the country, all over the world, are ministering to people at a parish level who are trying to process all of this. Since Catholic means universal, it would make sense to say Old Testament prophets were Catholic since they were part of the one universal faith. I mean, they were part of the people of God. They're in heaven. They're part of heaven. But I don't like. They're not Catholic because Catholic didn't exist at the time. Like they're in heaven right now, but they just weren't Catholic. I think the Vatican is so corrupt right now. I think that was part of the reason Benedict the 16th. Sorry guys, I haven't done Roman numerals since like high school. He just couldn't deal with it. What Catholic book should I read? I'm 14 and going into high school. Okay, there's this book by C.C. Pecknold called Christian Political Thought. That sounds like a really boring title, but it's an amazing book. Like, it changed my life. It helped me understand Christianity so much. So, Christian Political Thought by C.C. Pecknold. You will love it. Jesse Edwards, I am a feminist. Yeah, I identify as a feminist too, but it's difficult to say things like that because there's so many different definitions of feminism. Like, for example, I'm pro-life since I'm Catholic. A lot of people will say, you're not a feminist because you're pro-life. So it's like, a lot of feminists wouldn't consider me a feminist, even if I want to call myself a feminist. So like a majority of feminists say I'm not a feminist. So maybe I'm not a feminist. Love that they are saints in heaven. Yeah, absolutely. I really wish that in more Christian art, we would focus more on the people of the Old Testament. Like, I attended Orthodox Divine Liturgy like 6 months of last year, and the Orthodox church by my house, they had icons of all of these saints from the Old Testament, and I absolutely love it when in parishes or in Orthodox churches, whichever, they have icons of all the saints from the Old Testament. I feel like we need to put more emphasis on the Old Testament, just everyone who's a Christian. Lizzie, could you make a book suggestions video full of different books with different purposes and topics? Okay, so I made a video last year doing this. It's called How to Interpret. Wait, I'm gonna go see what the video is called. So type into YouTube search Lizzie's Answers, How to Interpret the Bible. And there's this video, How to Read and Interpret the Bible, plus book recommendations, hermeneutics. So that's kind of not as much like Catholic books, but books on how to understand the New Testament. But yeah, I'm gonna make more blog posts and videos with book recommendations, of course. Have you heard of New Wave Feminism? It's a pro-life section of feminism. That's really cool. I personally am not that concerned about labels, though. Like I was saying, if someone doesn't want to call themselves a feminist, doesn't want to say they support Black Lives Matter, I don't really care what you call yourselves. I just want everyone to become informed on injustice issues and be contacting politicians, donating to nonprofits, becoming aware of social issues, so we're all working towards equality. Does that make sense? Like, I don't care how you identify yourself, but just be researching all of these issues having to do with gender and race. People easily forget the wisdom of the Old Testament. Yeah, absolutely. And my experience is that we need to interpret the New Testament with the Old Testament, and so much Catholic theology, if you understand the Old Testament in depth, it proves Catholicism. So someone said, I guess I would be a first wave feminist, but I don't call myself one. But what I see of modern feminism is kind of insane. Some of it is kind of insane for sure. But a lot of the isolating is good. My brother is a priest. We grew up Protestant and sorry, it just went away, and converted after his ordination. Let's all pray for the healing of the victims and always pray for our priests. Yeah, of course. Being Catholic is far beyond the scandals. Priest abusers would get their punishment, but our faith is on Jesus and the church, not on the priest. Absolutely. Lizzie, will you be writing a book soon about Catholicism and your journey? Yes, I have a manuscript written. I'm not supposed to talk about it, but I feel like the agent and stuff who I'm working with is not going to watch this part of the live stream. But I haven't signed anything yet, so when I do, I'll probably announce things. If you want to enhance your spiritual life, try reading The Story of a Soul by St. Teresa of the Child Jesus. Yeah, I've heard such good things about that book. That's on my to-read list. Father Mike Schmitz really helped me to accept Catholicism when speaking about earthbound spirits being in purgatory. Yeah, I watched so many of his videos when I was thinking of converting last year, and he just explained a lot of just simple theology videos, so he really helped in my conversion as well. Lizzie, I'm from Brazil. Please pray that communion will not win this year's, that communism will not win this year's election in Brazil. Peace of Christ, brothers and sisters. I will pray. One of my best friends and roommates is from Brazil, and she's talked to me in depth about your political situation. So I know a lot about how corrupt it is and how scary it can be. Have you read Vibrant Paradoxes by Robert Barron? No, I haven't read any of his books. I feel like the rest of my life, I'm going to be reading about Catholicism. It's 2,000 years of history and theology. So I'm still reading the books that in the Old Testament that the Protestants removed from the Bible. I'm still reading through that. I have so much to learn. Unfortunately, there's a lot of baggage attached to movements that are trying to do great things. It's best to find what is true and good about a movement and believe those things. Yeah, absolutely. Mukbang. Oh my gosh, I hate the mukbang trend on YouTube because the people who do mukbangs, they always pick really unhealthy fried food, lots of meat. And it's just really unhealthy. Like, these YouTubers I watch, Nikki and Gabby, they did a mukbang, and they actually took it down because they said they felt bad that they were promoting like unhealthy eating amongst their subscribers. So the Old Testament foreshadowed so much that would happen in the New Testament. Hey, I have not viewed your videos in years. I remember when you made the video about signs that a girl likes you. I was like 15 or 16 at the time. Now I'm 24. Isn't that crazy? I have a wrench after my name. Does that mean I'm a moderator? Yeah, so you can delete any comments you hate. So you can censor the comment. But basically just delete if someone's being racist or homophobic or sexist or cursing a lot. Lizzie, do you think you would become a third order religious or some lay order like that? I don't know. I don't know what that is. It's not wrong to have same-sex attraction just to act on it. You aren't unworthy for having attraction. Just like a married person, is it wrong to feel attraction to other people? Yeah, absolutely. Do you think God wants us to be plant-based vegans so we won't hurt animals? I think that everyone would feel better, live longer, be healthier, be happier if they ate a healthy plant-based vegan diet, because it's just the healthiest diet. Like, if you eat healthy as a vegan, you're gonna feel stronger, be better. There's gonna be less pollution, less animals will be harmed. So I just think in general, not even as a Christian thing, just as like an objective thing, everyone would be happier as a vegan, have less health issues. So, like, at Chipotle, you can get free guac. If you don't get a meat and just get beans, free guac to be vegan. So many reasons to be vegan. Your dinner looks so good. I'm sure many people have already told you. LOL. Yeah, it's vegan Chipotle. And get brown rice. Always get brown rice because it has more fiber. That's like my number one nutrition advice. Try to get as much fiber in your diet as possible and as little saturated fat. How many vegetative souls are you killing there? So vegetative souls have nothing to do with vegetables. I think I was reading about this recently, actually, about Aquinas' view. If your husband was becoming a deacon, would you be okay with that? You and him have to do 7 years of diocese classes. That's a lot. I mean, if he really wanted to, I would do it. I feel like when you're a couple, you have to make sacrifices for each other, and like their dream has to become your dream, you know? That's so long. You're making me hungry. Yeah, vegan food is so good. It's so filling. Like, I think what people don't realize about veganism, people think that veganism, like, you can't enjoy food, but since vegan food is low calorie, you can eat so much food. Like, I eat so many calories a day, and I'm so skinny, like, and strong. I have abs and muscles and everything, so you can eat so much food if you're vegan. Okay, also Chipotle. So you know how Chipotle usually has only green fajita things? What am I talking about? Peppers. The peppers, this one had like red, yellow, and green at Chipotle today. I was like, wow. That's different. Do you have any advice for eating healthy in college? Get a kitchen. If you're doing the meal plan, you're gonna gain like 15 pounds. I gained 15 pounds at college, and then I lost it when I like moved back home and ate fully vegan all the time. I automatically got back to my smaller weight. Okay, but like I said, if you want to eat healthy, always go for high fiber foods. So brown rice, whole wheat pasta, 100% whole wheat bread. Always go for those higher fiber foods, they're gonna fill you up. If you're eating processed foods like white rice, white flour, white noodles, that's really bad carbs. So carbs are good if they're high fiber carbs. So fruits and vegetables have lots of fiber. Brown rice, brown noodles, whole wheat. So fiber is like my number one thing. My friend has been Protestant and is choosing to become Orthodox because he believes in papal primacy but not in papal supremacy. Can you recommend any books for me to tell him? The book I recommended, Upon This Rock by Stephen Ray, is what really helped me with the papacy. It like gives all the primary source documents from the early church and like biblical exegesis and everything. So Upon This Rock, Stephen Ray. I am working on being vegan too, but I find it hard to give up animal products. Meat is easy. Quinoa is chill, is really good, and in stir fries. Yeah, I mean, what I recommend with veganism is don't think of it as going fully vegan. Think of it as percentages. So, like, I am 98% vegan in my life. So sometimes if I'm, like, on a road trip, can't find vegan food, I will occasionally have meat in something or occasionally have dairy. But if you think of it as like going fully vegan, you're probably going to fail. So just think of it as going like 70% vegan, 50% vegan, like whatever you can. And I recommend following a lot of vegan Instagram accounts and vegan recipe accounts, vegan YouTube channels, because you have to cook in like a different way. I make a lot of stir fries with rice. Like rice is my number one like staple food, and pasta and bread, whole wheat bread. And bagels. I love bagels. I never go meat, even when I cheat only dairy or eggs. I'm the opposite. I barely ever eat eggs or dairy, but I'll eat meat sometimes. Do you watch Bishop Barron videos? I think they're amazing. Yes, I love Bishop Barron so much. I watch his videos all the time. The only reason I'm vegan is that I took a year to transition. Exactly. You have to take a long time to transition. If you just try to go fully vegan, you're going to fail. Even like your body. I remember I went from, I was doing missions work in Thailand for 2 months one summer in 2015. And so I was eating meat there and dairy and stuff. So then when I got back to America, I immediately went vegan one day and like my stomach like freaked out. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but like when you're getting so much more fiber, like your digestive system, like it kind of freaks out at first. So definitely go gradual. How many California missions have you visited? I think 2. Tomorrow, I'm telling the elder at my Protestant church that I'm becoming Catholic and won't be coming back. Any advice? Oh my gosh, that's so intense. I'm so happy for you. That's amazing. I would pray so intense before you go and just pray that you'll be able to present it in a way that's humble and that like he will listen. Because I think the reason people will continue becoming Catholic is if people who convert are like, I hated Catholicism, I never wanted to be Catholic. And then you're like, but I'm becoming Catholic. When you say it like that, people are going to listen. Like when I made my conversion video, part of the reason that it went so viral in the Catholic community is because I was so dramatic in it. And it was real. Like I really hated Catholicism. But when you present it as like you never wanted to be Catholic and you were so angry it was true, then people kind of get curious about it. Lizzie, you should read Finding God Amidst the Rwandan Genocide. So amazing, and I cried so much. Oh my gosh, the Rwandan Genocide is so... Okay, I'm gonna like copy and paste this and put it in a window. I might read it someday. I feel like with my YouTube, I get constant book suggestions all the time. You guys are always telling me things to read. Headphone users lower the volume. I talk so loud. Oh my gosh. It's so ridiculous. Formally inviting Lizzie to be the Third Order of Carmelites, but seeing her as a preacher, she would be good with the Third Order Dominicans. Aren't the Dominicans just male? Praying for you. You are so loved. Reach out for help if you need it. There's a suicide. Oh my gosh, who is so sad? Okay. Oh my gosh, it's only been an hour and 30 minutes. Where was the most beautiful Catholic church you've ever visited? This Byzantine Catholic church in Virginia, near Fairfax, Virginia. Hey, Blimey Cow rocks. I love Blimey Cow too. I've been watching it for so long. I was surprised when I started becoming Catholic. Everyone always told me how terrible it was. Then I went to a mass. The first time I went to mass, I was like, it was like 2013 for me, and I was shocked too because it was so like normal. I thought it would be very like strict and like serious and boring and like sin, you're sinning kind of thing. But it was like so chill and like. Do you go to a Protestant school? Yeah, I went to college at Pepperdine University. It's Church of Christ, which was the Protestant church I grew up in. It's so cute how you guys are talking to each other in the comments. Aw. Have you visited Vatican City? No, I want to go to Rome someday with my boyfriend, but the thing is, he's like a normal life. Like, I have a life where I can travel whenever I want because I do my YouTube, but like, he's in school and like, he works during the summer. Like, he's an actual adult human being. So I can't just be like, let's go to Rome in October. Like, let's go to Israel. You know what I mean? Like, he can't just like travel with me. So I kind of have to like wait for his life. Lizzie, have you looked into traditional Catholicism? Yeah, I made a blog post about this. I'm gonna start talking about like traditional Catholicism more. I went to Latin Mass like for 3 months of 2016. A lot of Latin Catholics converted me into Catholicism. A lot of my followers are Latin Catholics, so I love you guys so much. And I go to Latin Mass in California. It's like my second parish I'm part of, and like it's so funny. I had been going there like sometimes before I converted. I mean, as I was converting, but once I announced my conversion, the next time I went there, everyone recognized me. Like, everyone. And yeah, so they really love me there and they're really nice. If he's an adult human, what are you? Um, I think I'm not like fully an adult. I mean, I do my own taxes, I pay rent, but I'm still on my parents' health insurance. So that's kind of like not being fully an adult. And I don't know, like I've never had like a real job with hours and I don't know, like I have my own job and I work a lot, but I just like don't feel like an adult. You know what I mean? Like some of my friends are like getting married or having kids and I'm like that's weird, you know what I mean? Like I don't feel like and I feel like I'm very much like a kid. Like I have very like joyful person and like I just don't take life that seriously a lot. Do you have Netflix? If so, you might enjoy AD Kingdom and Empire. It's about the early. Oh my gosh! Okay, AD Kingdom and Empire. I'll actually watch that. I've been like watching Netflix recently. Usually, I don't watch TV. I'll go through phases where I do like certain shows. Where do you find the sacraments of confession and penance in the Bible? Please provide scriptural references. Okay, I'll probably make a whole video about this someday, but in 1 Corinthians, when Paul is talking about communion, he says that you must do, sorry, let me find the exact passage. Okay. Last Supper, Paul, 1 Corinthians. Okay. Okay, so in 1 Corinthians 11, Paul is talking about the Last Supper. So he's talking about how during the agape feast, some people are eating before the other people and getting drunk during communion, just lots of issues. And so he says, verse 27, so 1 Corinthians 11:27, whoever eats the bread or drinks the cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty concerning the body and blood of the Lord. Let a person examine himself then, and so eat of the bread and drink of the cup. For anyone who eats and drinks without discerning the body eats and drinks judgment on himself. So obviously that's talking about like looking over yourself. It's talking about confession. And so confession, obviously in the early church, there were not confessionals like there are today. But a really interesting verse, Jesus actually tells his apostles that they can forgive the sins of people. Where is it? Matthew? Apostles in... Okay, so John 20:23. If you forgive anyone's sins, their sins are forgiven. If you do not forgive them, they are not forgiven. That sounds pretty Catholic to me, don't you think? He's telling his apostles that they have the power to forgive sins. So those two verses are where I get it from. And I remember last summer when I was like thinking of being Catholic, that was one of the verses I read in the Bible, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that seems so Catholic. Like I never really thought about it before. What advice would you give to my cousin who wants to get baptized Catholic but is really held back by the thought of betraying her anti-Catholic Protestant fam? So Jesus says that if you don't hate your mother and father, you're not worthy to be his disciple. He doesn't obviously mean that we should hate people in our lives, but he's saying that our devotion and love for Christ and making sacrifices with Christ should come before everyone in our life who we love. So obviously it's really hard, but it comes down to caring about your own spiritual health, what's best for you, and what is true. And so obviously, you know, it sucks when you have to hurt your family. Like I cried and cried and cried so much with how much it hurt my family. It was horrible, but ultimately it was true and I had to do what was best for me. You always have to love yourself the most or you won't be strong to love other people. 7 years ago, I was asked by a Protestant minister to help him start a new church. I didn't do it and became Catholic instead. I love hearing conversion stories. Do you ever watch The Journey Home on EWTN? Of course! I love EWTN so much. Hi, Lizzie. I'm a priest in the Archdiocese of Chicago. Yay, priest! That was actually the weirdest thing last year when priests started following me on Snapchat and Twitter. Like, I would see, like, FR. That would be like, this is an interesting demographic. Anyways, my teen group has been examining the theme of suicide and the Netflix show 13 Reasons Why. Yay or nay? I haven't watched the show. I watched part of it just because I get really triggered by like suicide scenes and stuff like that. But I think it's really important and amazing that you're discussing these things with your youth group. That's so great because I know a lot of people who message me are dealing with suicidal thoughts and mental illness and don't really have anyone to talk to about it. So I love how that series kind of brought all of that into the open. So I think it's amazing that that show causes people to talk about all of that and just shows how like the girl who did commit suicide was because of sexual abuse, which is what this whole video has been about. Like I shared, my friend was so suicidal because she was sexually abused. And so I think it's amazing being so crystal clear aware how much we're affecting the people around us. Like there are people around us who are suicidal. And so we should be like extremely kind and loving and reach out to as many people as possible. So I'm so happy you're doing that with your teens. It's so cool. Someone was like, I was agnostic for 9 years, laughing at all religious people. Now look at me. So now you're a Christian, I guess. Thank you so much for your response and wise advice. You're welcome. Women of Grace on EWTN is so beautiful. I agree. One of my friends who is a guy was on Women of Grace. It was so fun. Well, someone's praying to Mary in the comments. That's great. The real question is, why would you do math if you don't believe in absolute truth? That's it's actually a really funny argument. Like that's true. Because a lot of people are actual relativists, but maybe just relativists about morality. So maybe they aren't full relativists. What's funny though, I should talk about that. You wanna make a video about moral relativism? I have heard you talk about St. Augustine a lot. So I went to research and there's actually a movie about him on YouTube. I love his Confessions letter. Did you watch it yet? No, I'll look that up. Confession letters? I read Augustine when I was in college. Restless Heart, The Confessions of Augustine. Oh, wow! Ignatius Press Films. Oh my gosh, Ignatius Press. I love them. Can you make a video explaining the different aspects of Catholicism, Byzantine, Latin, traditional, Roman, and what's about? Yeah, that'd be a really interesting video. One thing I don't like is when Latin Catholics call themselves traditional Catholics, and I'm gonna talk about this in like blog posts and video, but I think every single Catholic is a traditional Catholic because we're all following the apostolic tradition that Jesus' apostles established when they were on earth. So we're all traditional Catholics. I don't think anyone should be calling themselves a traditional Catholic because, like, with capital T tradition, that's all Catholics. And I think it just confuses maybe converts when we say stuff like that. Hey, Lizzie, do you know the channel New Catholic Generation? Yeah, we're friends with each other. Like, we follow each other on social media and stuff. I watched their videos a lot when I was thinking of becoming Catholic. I was just, like, trying to understand what Mass was like because I didn't want to go to Mass, but I was, like, watching their videos. If your baptism wasn't done in the Trinitarian form, it would need to be redone. Absolutely, but most baptisms are Trinitarian. Like, some Pentecostal only do in the name of Jesus. Mormons don't believe in the Trinity, so, I mean, they do, they just lack Trinitarian. Good night, Lizzie. Thanks for making me a moderator so I could help you out. Thank you so much. Good night. I hope you have a good sleep. Good night, Jesse. Oh, you guys are so sweet. You're talking to each other. I find it crazy that Protestant churches send their missionaries to the Philippines to convert Catholics. I know, it's horrible. Trads helped me to become Catholic. Then I told them I had SSA and they banished me. I don't know what that is. If you get a chance, at the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Angels in Los Angeles, the body of the martyr Saint Vibiana is there. Her feast day is September 1st. That's so cool. Good night. Good night. Is it really? I guess it's 10 o'clock. Yeah, I'm gonna go to bed soon too. Have you ever questioned that some of the beliefs of the Catholicism is not biblical? It wasn't that I didn't think like any of the beliefs of Catholicism were biblical. So like I was explaining with John 20:23, where Jesus says, if you forgive the sins of them, they are forgiven. If you don't forgive them, they're not forgiven. That's talking about how the apostles have the authority to forgive sins. In John 6, when Jesus was saying, eat my flesh, drink my blood, my flesh is real food, saying that 4 times, that's the Catholic doctrine of real presence. So my experience in becoming Catholic is I was reading through the New Testament so intensely and I saw Catholicism in the Bible. So reading the Bible is what made me become Catholic. What is SSA? Same-sex attraction. Oh, okay. My best friend's mom got converted from that. I wish the government would release the Dead Sea Scrolls. They're public. What do you mean? Like, if you Google them, you could see them. It's not the government that has them. It's, like, individuals. It's only 8 p.m. where I live. Yeah, you're in California. I just feel like baptism should happen as a baby and again as an adult. Yeah, I really like that I remembered my baptism, but I've actually seen, like, a Catholic baptism of a baby, and they, like, pour water 3 times to represent the Trinity, and it's a really beautiful ceremony. What really changed my mind on that, well, was reading quotes from early Christians talking about infant baptism, but the idea that baptism brings you into the Christian community and brings you into the covenant, into the new covenant. So it's not just, like, forgiving sins. Like, of course it is. It brings you into the community, but it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's bringing you into the Christian family, the new covenant. So it's so much more than the forgiveness of sins. So I think it doesn't make sense to not baptize babies and children. Lizzie, what is your take on Catholic doctrine in the post-truth era? Anyone who thinks they're in the post-truth era is wrong. You are greatly blessed. I think we call ourselves trads to use it as a separation, but I only use it because Googling it gets me where I want to go. I wonder if the old right is more apt. I just wish people wouldn't create a separation. Like, why are you creating a separation? We're all Catholic. Like I was saying, I go to Latin Mass a lot. I love Latin Mass, but I'm Catholic. We're all Catholic. We shouldn't create separation. Lizzie, please pray for Filipino Catholics. Most Catholics in the country are becoming schismatics because of the president. Okay, I will pray for all of you. What are evangelicals missing? The Eucharist. Can you talk about the reason Catholics do infant baptism? I made an entire video, 2 videos talking about it. So go to YouTube and search LizziesAnswers infant baptism. And then there's another video called Do Catholics Think Protestants Are Christians, which is like part 2 to the video, but you will find them. You'll find everything you're looking for. Can you talk about the reason? Okay, like I said, I made the 2 videos on infant baptism. Okay, I didn't know what the Council of Jamnia. I have no idea. Like, I barely know anything about Catholicism, guys. Like, I'm brand new. Should I sell my Protestant Bibles, get rid of them, or no? What? I have all my Bibles I've ever had in my life because I write in them, and so it's like a journal looking back on my spiritual journey. So Protestant Bibles are Catholic Bibles. You know what I mean? Like, the Catholic Bible has extra books that the Protestants removed, but your Protestant Bible, all of the books in that Bible are sacred scripture, infallible word of God. Don't get rid of it. That's, wow. Please pray for my friend who left the faith for Pentecostalism to come back to the fullness of faith. I wish people understood that priest actions don't represent the entire church and make Catholicism look bad. Yeah. Okay, signing off. Have a great night. Good night. I'm gonna go really soon too. I'm getting so tired, guys. When is your next live stream? Probably like 2 weeks from now on Saturday. Okay, I think I'm gonna go, guys, because I'm getting so tired. I'm gonna finish eating my vegan food. I really enjoyed processing all of this with you guys because I think it's been really hard on all Catholics the past few weeks with all of this information. So I love all of you so much, and I love how we're able to share prayer requests with each other and encourage each other in the faith. Don't leave me. Oh my gosh, you guys are sending me really cute emojis. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video on Monday where I talk about the crucifix and how I used to hate the crucifix. Sorry guys. Okay guys, good night. I love you.